and welcome to the Community Connect podcast presented by Healing Hands Healthcare. I am your host, Fernando Garcia, and I have the pleasure to be sitting down with Steve Sparks, CEO of the Faith Mission. How are you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Fernando.
I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So with Christmas coming up, you got all your Christmas shopping done yet?
Oh, well, I don't think so. I'm really counting on my wife to help me with that.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm her assist. I'll let her try to knock out as much as she can, and I'll come and sweep up the rest at the very end.
That's me. We're on the same page.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, can you tell us how you began with the Faith Mission and what your role entails?
Yeah, I am CEO. When I was hired 10 years ago, I was actually pastoring in several different cities and states around this area, and came back to Wichita Falls in 2005 to be closer to home, closer to my family and parents, aging parents, and was working at Camp Chaparral, which is a small church camp out in Owl Park. Found out about the opportunity at Faith Mission, just decided to go for it. It sounded like something I'd be interested in. I really didn't have the qualifications they were looking for. They wanted somebody with experience in rescue missions, and I didn't have any of that, but I had a lot of experience with nonprofits and with caring for the needy. And so they gave me an interview, and here we are, 10 years later, doing what I really love to do, which is care for people.
That's awesome. That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Will you discuss the differences between the Faith Mission and the Faith Refuge? You actually oversee two organizations.
That's correct. Faith Mission, the downtown shelter, is primarily for men and families, and then Faith Refuge is for women and children. Those are the obvious differences, but the maybe less obvious difference is their location. Faith Mission being downtown, we're kind of on the beaten path, and so we get a lot of walk-in traffic. We get a lot of people coming for our services that live in the neighborhood, and so we kind of stretch our mission, the scope of our mission a little bit, and we actually serve people who are not homeless with meals and clothing and other needs that they might have. You know, in the event that maybe that will help them to be able to pay their bills instead of making a choice between food and electricity, they'll be able to not end up homeless someday down the road. And so we have a lot of foot traffic at Faith Mission. At Faith Refuge, it's out on kind of off the beaten path on Hatton Road, and you can't really see it, and you don't really go to it unless you're really going that direction. And so we don't get any foot traffic out there. We don't serve any meals or any other services to people who just walk by because people don't walk out in that direction. So that's kind of one of the other not so obvious differences. Other than that, both shelters have the exact same programs and services. The only real difference is that at Faith Refuge we have services for moms with children, which is a big difference too.
Jumping off that, can you describe some of the programs and services that you offer between the two organizations?
Sure. You know, the obvious one is our emergency services that we provide for anyone that walks in. We provide shelter, a bed, 3 meals a day. We have a clinic that's operated on every Tuesday. We also provide clothing and all the necessities that a person would need if they were living on the streets. And then we take it one step further with case management at both locations, where we actually offer people who come in with just the clothes on their back help in getting their ID or their Social Security card, finding a job, finding housing, finding transportation. So they just go the gamut with those clients, taking them where they are and trying to get them to the point of self-sufficiency. And on top of that, we have a program that's called New Beginnings, which is our 13-month addiction recovery program. The first 6 months of that program is all about recovering from addiction and making new decisions. And then the last 6 months of that program is a job readiness program where we actually put them to work for us on the payroll, and they live there while they're working for us, while they're still going to class, and now they're getting work experience. They're getting 6 more months of sobriety, and they're learning how to do things that many of us take for granted, like wake up in the morning to an alarm clock,
Mm-hmm.
get dressed for work. Some of them, this is the first time they've ever done that. So
Oh, wow.
it's really helping them get back in the job force. At the end of that 13-month program, the final cog in the wheel, if you will, is our transitional supportive housing.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 houses here in town, and the graduates of those programs can go and live in one of those houses, the men in the men's house, women's in the women's house. They're sober living houses. They're self-governing, and so the men and women in the houses govern themselves. They have a house parent that lives in an apartment behind them who holds them accountable. We still do drug testing. We still do case management. We offer all the services that they had when they were in the program, except now they have a little bit more freedom.
Okay.
And they start, what I call, they start practicing their newfound independence and their self-sufficiency. They do their own laundry. They pay their own bills. They have to have a job. They have to provide their own transportation to and from that job. They shop for their own groceries. So they're just learning how to live independently in those houses.
Just getting back on track, getting the routine back together, just get those steps to get your life right.
And we let them live there for up to 1 more year after they graduate.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's our programs and services in a nutshell.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
How can our community help continue your mission to lead the homeless towards self-sufficiency?
Well, anytime I talk about this community, I always brag on them because they are so supportive of not just us, but all the nonprofits in town. This is such a generous community. And financial gifts are the main way that we're able to continue to provide all of our programs and services. But we also depend a lot on volunteers. Volunteers who help in the dining hall, who help in the clothing room. Sometimes we have small projects that we can put groups to work on. And then we also depend a lot on in-kind donations, food, clothing, household items that we're able to pass on to our clients. And then lastly, we have 2 resale stores, Faith Resale and Donation Center and Faith Resale downtown on Lamar Street. And both of those are totally dependent on donations, gently used items that you would like to give to us and allow us to resell them, and then all the proceeds go back into the operations.
It's good to know that all the services that you provide to your clients come at no cost. So
Correct.
It's very important that you get the support from the community.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons that we feel like we're able to have the success we're having too, is because there are so many people out there who can't afford rehabilitation. In the self-pay market, it's just not possible. And so we're so thankful that we're able to provide that free of charge.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How does an individual or family check into the homeless shelter, and what shelter services are provided to men and families experiencing homelessness?
When we see a person come in the front door, of course, the first question we ask to them is, are you looking for a bed? Are you looking for a place to stay? Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're just wanting a meal. Sometimes they're just wanting clothing, especially downtown. But typically what we do is, if they're ready, if they want to stay with us that night, they're a brand new client, then we'll do check-in somewhere around 3 p.m. up until about 5 p.m.
Okay.
We're open 24/7, but from 3 to 5 is kind of when we do all the paperwork and the intake.
Okay.
If anybody comes in before that, we just ask them to wait. If they come in afterwards, we get it done that evening or maybe first thing the next day. But we do all that intake paperwork in the evenings, early afternoons and evenings, and then we have a check-in for all of the overnight clients around 6 p.m. where they get their pajamas and their towels, and they take a shower, and then they go to the evening meal, chapel and the evening meal, and then we bed everybody down by about 9 o'clock. And that's kind of the same at both shelters. But like I said, we're 24/7, so if a police officer finds somebody walking down the road, or if just an individual like yourself sees somebody and you want to suggest that they go to Faith Mission or Faith Refuge, we'll take them after hours. We do close the doors and lock the gates, but we have buzzers at both buildings that people can ring to get let in after hours.
Oh, good. That's amazing. What's one thing about your journey with Faith Mission that you didn't expect?
I think, not having a lot of experience at homeless shelter services. I didn't know what to expect, and it all kind of caught me off guard. But one of the things that really caught my attention right away was the opportunity that was available to Faith Mission and Faith Refuge to people, that it was more than just a warehouse for people, for homeless people, but it was an opportunity to help those people become, this is not a word, but I'll coin the phrase anyway, unhomeless. We want them to become self-sufficient. And just giving them a bed and a meal is the very beginning of that. It helps us to be able to get their attention and maybe gain their trust and also provide the need that they have. But we also want them to be able to do away with any obstacles that's keeping them from becoming self-sufficient. So I had no idea that there was so much opportunity just within our organization to help so many people. I had no idea that addiction had played such a huge role in homelessness. And I had no idea that mental health played such a huge role in homelessness. So I've learned so much since I've been there about how homelessness is more than just a lack of a roof over your head, but it's really a symptom of a greater problem. Something else caused that person to become homeless. It was either an addiction, mental illness, they burned all their bridges, they don't have any family members who will help them anymore. So to me, the major cause of homelessness is not a lack of a house, or it's not necessarily a lack of finances, but it's really a lack of relationships.
So that support system.
When they connect with community, then they have opportunities that they've never had before. That's what we feel like we're there for.
Awesome. What's one common myth about your organization?
I think that it's back to what I said about us being a warehouse for people. I think that a lot of people, and it's not a bad thing to think this about us. It's just that we need to do a little bit more education in our community, that we do more than just warehouse people, that we actually allow them to take steps to gain self-sufficiency. And we want people to know that we're more than just a warehouse. And I think that, there's myths about homeless people being, the dirty hobo that fell off the boxcar and that kind of thing. But homeless people are just like you and I.
It can happen to anybody.
Yeah, we're just one paycheck away maybe from being right there with them. We've got people with college degrees. We've got people who've had fine careers and family lives that have gotten destroyed by addiction or other problems along the way. And you visit with them and hear their story and you say, man, that could have been me. That could have been me. So, the myth that they're dirty and scary and that kind of thing, I think will be overcome really quickly if you come down and see how we do things.
Oh man, that's awesome. I love that. What's the biggest challenge you're presently facing, and how are you overcoming it?
Oh, I mentioned both of those already, but I'll focus on one of them, and that is mental health. Mental health is the biggest challenge that we have right now, because it's not against the law to be mentally ill. And so you can't force a person to take their meds. You can't force a person to keep their appointments. And so when you have someone who comes in with schizophrenia or bipolar or just severe depression, and then you try to mix them in with 50 or 60 other people, it causes all kinds of challenges for our staff and for the clients. And so we are trying to face that challenge by trying to figure out a way to raise enough money to pay a full-time mental health professional on our staff, just to work with people to help them become stable enough so that they can receive, just traditional case management. But if you sit down with somebody who's having a mental health episode and try to talk to them about getting their Social Security card, it's just not going to go very far. They need to be stabilized. They need to have their medication stable. They need to be able to keep their appointments. They need to learn how to socialize with others and learn coping skills. And I believe that we could help a lot of those people get out of that cycle of getting arrested for getting into a fight, ending up at the state hospital for a couple of days, and then right back out on the street again, and then they're right back to Faith Mission, and it starts all over again. I believe we could make a dent in that if we could get the right staff on board.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
What's one initiative you're currently working on?
That's it. That's the initiative that we're working on right now, besides the fact that our addiction recovery program has outgrown our both facilities at this point. So besides hiring a mental health care professional on our staff, we're also working on a building project for next year to try to add 30 beds to our downtown shelter.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then maybe a year after that, we'll start looking at adding some beds to Faith Refuge as well. We have plenty of beds for our transient clients who come in just stay a night or two, but we're completely out of beds for our addiction recovery program.
Oh, wow.
Both of those programs have waiting lists right now.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Have you seen a up in occupancy just due to the pandemic?
We actually saw a little bit of a decline, and I think the reason was people didn't want to come in and take the chance of getting COVID in a congregant setting like that. Once we started letting people know that we were safe, we were masking and we were social distancing, we were taking precautions, then the numbers started coming back again and started rising again.
Okay.
And they're very seasonal too. In the cold weather, we get a lot more people coming in. It's interesting, but there are a lot of people homeless people in our area who choose to live outside in camps.
Oh, wow.
There's several camps around this area that most people wouldn't know about because they don't want to be known. They want to just be left alone.
Yeah.
But when the cold weather hits, or sometimes even when the hot weather hits in the summertime, we see those people start coming in.
That
for
extreme weather.
A little bit of a respite from the extreme weather. Right.
What's been the most helpful resource that has helped you along the way?
Well, I would be remiss to not say the financial support that we get from our community is probably the most important, but a really close second to that would be our partnerships with the other nonprofit agencies here in town. We work with Helen Farabee and with United Regional, the Police Department, Sheriff's Department, Interfaith Ministries, the Food Bank, the Kitchen, Meals on Wheels, all of those nonprofits coming together give us the opportunity to work together and provide a continuum of care for clients, because we share a lot of the same clients. And if we didn't have those partnerships, then we wouldn't know what the other one did, and sometimes it can be detrimental to the person's recovery. So we really cherish those partnerships that we have with all of our other nonprofit agencies in town. We've got them all on speed dial, and we talk to them probably every day.
Oh, wow.
Just providing care for the same clients and making sure that we're doing it in a consistent way.
Good deal. All right. Where can listeners learn more about the Faith Mission?
Well, they can go to faithmissionwf.org. That's our website. They can find out more about the programs and services I offered. Times of services, our daily schedules are printed there. You can learn about our staff and our board of directors. You can learn about how you can support us and how you can volunteer. There's a volunteer tab you can click on. You fill out the paperwork, and you'll receive a call from our coordinator who will try to get you involved as a volunteer. So there's all kinds of ways that you can learn about us on our website. We also have a pretty robust Facebook and Twitter and Instagram presence here in town. So if you like us on any of those social media channels, then you'll be able to learn more about us that way too. And I would like to really personally invite anybody who just wants to come down and take a tour of our services at Faith Mission or Faith Refuge. I'll be happy to personally give you a tour of what we do, and I think it really is eye-opening to see with your own eyes what really goes on there.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you on behalf of the community for the fantastic resource that you provide for Wichita Falls.
Well, thank you for thanking me. I mean, we're glad to be here, and it's really a privilege to be able to do this. It's really, I look at what we do as, helping the helpless. And the Bible says that the test of true religion that the Father accepts is when we provide services or help to the widows and the orphans, who are, to me, the most helpless people in the world. Well, I would put homeless in that same category. So I feel like that Faith Mission is really in the business of helping the helpless, which is, our calling here in our community. You won't find a single person on our team who isn't doing what they do because they love it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have anybody just collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, you really have to have a passion
You
for
really
that.
have to have a heart for
Mm-hmm.
it. And we have a tremendous team that has a heart for serving the helpless.
All right, well, that's good to hear. Well, I
Yes.
thank you for joining me today, Steve.
Absolutely.
And I thank everyone for watching today. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.